Talk about this is Democratic Congressman Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it, especially on this Labor Day weekend. What do you make of these Republican threats to shut down the government? What can be done about this? Do you think it's going to happen?
What a difference a year makes. Democrats closed last summer investing in domestic manufacturing, empowering Medicare to negotiate drug prices, passing the biggest, boldest climate change and clean energy legislation in history. Fast forward 1 year, Republicans are threatening to shut down the government, really just to protect Donald Trump from accountability. It's shameful. And what Kevin McCarthy is going to need to do is jettison the most extreme hardliners in his conference. There's 25, 35, 45 members of that conference who just are not serious about governing. They're nihilistic. And insofar as he lets the tail wag the dog, the government's going to shut down. Now, if he wants to step up and be a true leader of the chamber and put together a bipartisan consensus like we did to raise the debt limit, then I think we can govern.
Might we see a situation emerge, it's a familiar one that we've seen before, where things just essentially go to the brink, they go to the last second, and McCarthy, after trying to, placate that far-right fringe of the Republican Party, will have to try to corral enough moderates to work with Democrats to push something through. Is that kind of a scenario that might emerge, or do we just not know at this point?
It might, but I hope not. It's not good for the American economy, which has been on a rip-roaring recovery for the last 3 years. It's not good for Ukraine because we need to pass supplemental aid for them as they fight on the front lines of the free world and as their counteroffensive gains steam. And it's not good for just Americans' confidence in our political system. Americans deserve a competent federal government that can pass a yearly budget and can take care of basic services. That is a commitment that President Biden shook hands on with Speaker McCarthy, and now Speaker McCarthy is running away from that deal.
On the other side of Capitol Hill, there have been questions about the health of the Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, other longtime members of Congress. And as you probably know, you've probably heard this from some of your constituents, has a lot of Americans wondering how many years politicians should be able to serve up on Capitol Hill. University of Maryland poll recently showed that an overwhelming majority of Americans are in favor of establishing a term limit or term limits for members of Congress. I don't have to inform our viewers, you're one of the younger members of the House of Representatives. Is that something that you would support?
I agree that there are politicians who are hanging on too long. It's one of the reasons I admire the example that Speaker Pelosi set last term when she really gracefully and on her own terms stepped aside, let the next generation step up. The matter of Mitch McConnell is really for the GOP conference to decide. But what I will say is that the best term limits are competitive elections. That's why the Alaska model that has an open primary with ranked choice voting in the general is really a good template for a lot of other states, my own included, to consider adopting to ensure that voters have a real choice every 2 or 6 years.
And just finally, I'm sure you saw this as well, New Wall Street Journal poll. I wanted to talk to you about 2024 a little bit. President Biden and former President Donald Trump are dead even in this hypothetical 2024 race. Do you see that as a warning sign for Democrats? Is this something that Democrats need to be wary of? That Trump is pretty far out in front in terms of capturing the Republican nomination, and he does poll almost evenly with the president. Should Democrats be paying more attention to this and be more concerned than perhaps they are right now about this?
This is going to be a close election. Probably going to come down to 4 states and 200,000 voters. That's the lesson of 2020 and 2016. And I think Democrats up and down the ballot are taking that very seriously. The good news here is that President Joe Biden has a strong story to tell that we really haven't started communicating yet as a party, a story of a strong economic recovery, one in which the president took on special interests to make this a more fair economy, try to build wealth from the bottom up and the middle out. It's a story of fighting for democracy, both in Ukraine and here at home. And it's a story of standing for a woman's right to choose and for taking on the gun lobby to make our communities more safe. I think Donald Trump, even without the incredible baggage of the 4 indictments he's facing, not 90 indictments, 4 trials that he's facing, is not going to be able to have a stronger story than what Joe Biden can put out there.
All right, Congressman Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it on this Labor Day weekend. Thanks so much.
Good to be with you.
All right. And